And we are live. Welcome everyone to the Crypto Herd, where we have with us George from Crypto Fight Club, tech lead of Crypto Fight Club, Mike, founder of Planet Mojo, and Grant Haseley, founder of Undead Blocks. Guys, welcome to the Crypto Herd. Also, welcome to everyone that is watching this on replay. So, how's everyone today, guys?
Great. Thanks for having us here.
Okay, this
Doing
is
good, Bruno. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure, George and Mike and Grant, to have you on the Crypto Herd. So today we're going to talk mainly about blockchain gaming economy. So I have here a few questions about it. And this is the first time we're doing NFT gaming talk. So guys, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you subscribe for more NFT gaming content. And the first question is, what's going on with blockchain gaming? Are people adhering to blockchain gaming? Are people bullish on blockchain gaming? Are people bearish? What's the current status of Web3 gaming right now? Mike, do you want to start with this one?
Sure. Easy question. I mean, I think there's like a macro and micro answer probably to that. I mean, we're talking on there goes Grant. We're talking on a day, where the markets are obviously hurting pretty bad. So, I think on the sort of micro level, in terms of people wanting to spend and people are being very conservative in that sense. But I think in the bigger picture, focus on the positive, there's so much bullishness around this space from people in the space already, who I think are doubling down on their commitments. And I think now is the time to really, focus on your community and what you're building. Plus, like just in Web 2 gamers that we speak to who don't, they're not really following crypto day to day so much, let's say, in the markets. But what we're hearing as we interview devs and talk to people is just the sort of interest in this space in terms of like being able to really not the earning side, but understanding to own your assets, I think is a message that's really resonating with the greater gaming community. And I think people in crypto and those people are waiting for like the next level of good games to come out, which I think we're all trying to make here. So, yeah.
That's great. So, George, do you want to add a comment on that? What's your take on this?
Yeah,
are we bearish? Are we bullish?
I think Mike's got some fantastic points there with what he's saying, especially with the Web 2 guys that aren't following crypto in the first place. This is a good time to, if they're not following crypto in the first place, you get them into your game by having a game that is fun for them to play. And then when the market comes back, you're like, oh yeah, whilst you've been playing this, you've actually accrued this much of our token, which is worth this to you. I know you've been playing our game just having fun, but guess what? You've made this money as well. And I think that's a lot better of a direction for people to be going. We're seeing the projects die off, which are just like, play my game now. You're going to be earning $5 every 3 minutes if you click this seal or slap that penguin or something. But if we're bringing them in just to play a game that's fun rather than a game they're playing as a chore, knowing that they're going to get money from it, I think this is a much better space that's going to make people develop fun games, because people are already like, okay, the market's terrible. I'm not really making money anywhere. If anything, I'm losing money. It's just going to be like, at least I've got this fun game I can be playing at the same time.
Well, I agree. I think gameplay is really important, and yeah, if you have like an exciting gameplay, you don't even need to worry about tokenomics or if your NFTs are going to go up in value or not. Like, I mean, before we were just playing games for fun, right? That was the reason why video games were invented. So, Grant, do you want to add a comment on this?
Yeah, I definitely want to know where I can find $5 every 3 minutes for slapping a penguin, especially in this economy. So, George, if you want to follow up with me offline, that would be great. I totally agree with you guys. I think, I've said this many a time. There are these two spectrums of GameFi where you have web browser-based games, which are essentially yield farming, like George described. do an action, collect X, and then you have these AAA, quote unquote AAA studios raising tokens, selling NFTs, and then promising a game in 3, 4, 5 years, and then nothing ever comes of it. So from our perspective, the gameplay obviously is the precedent. I believe some of the Axie founders even made a comment, well, if the game is fun enough and you can earn, I think that's going to be okay. And I vehemently disagree with them because there's just going to be so much volume moving into GameFi. Even consider the market conditions. I was at Consensus just talking to everyone I could, get in front of, and what the current sentiment is GameFi is hotter than ever. And the reason why is because you're seeing traditional DeFi fail. You're seeing other pivots away from these other models, these exploratory models, this essentially decentralized financial model. But with GameFi, as the macroeconomic conditions worsen, there's going to be a lot of people that are looking to games to make money. I think that's always been our plan, and that's what we want to do, especially with Undead Blocks. But that starts with the gameplay, because if you don't have a fun, addicting gameplay loop that's repeatable, but also doesn't feel like you're just clicking to earn, I truly believe that's when you're going to have the winner.
Okay, makes sense. I agree totally. So yeah, gameplay is a really important topic here. But I think also having the earning incentive, it's also what drives many people to Web3 gaming, right?
I would agree. I think when you talk to Web2 gamers, what I would love to do is just infiltrate one of the, and I see, Microsoft just had their huge gaming conference. What I want to do is I want to infiltrate that. Maybe I'll take George with me and we'll just wear Microsoft polos. We'll act like we're part of them and just really pull them. Because I believe if you pull these Web2 gamers, many of them say, we don't look to gaming to earn. We're looking for an escape. We're looking for a release from the life that we're living. So many people are doing these activities for 6, 7, 8 hours a day. And yet, in theory, it would be great to convert every single one of them right away. It is going to take some time because so many people look at gaming as entertainment, not as an investment. And that's a huge problem. When people come into our Discord and say, why is one of your NFTs $150? And we tell them, well, that gets you access to paid tournaments. We're running a $40,000 speed run in 3 weeks. That's a really cool opportunity for you to earn. Then it kind of clicks. And they're like, oh, okay, this isn't just a one-time payment, set it and forget it. It's something where you can continuously earn.
I think that's a great point there, Grant. The barrier of entry for the Web2s, where they used to, they feel like they're getting ripped off if they pay $120 for the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare, but they don't see the difference in if they pay $120 to get into a project like one of ours. If they want to get out of that project, they can sell that again. So you aren't necessarily down $120. If anything, you could get into a project with that $120, then sell it and get out of the project with more than you bought in for. And that's without whatever you earn in the game. So I think that's something that a lot of them aren't picking up on. And I think you're right there, Grant.
Okay, well, to me, answering the question, what's the current status of blockchain gaming? What I feel like as a content creator, YouTuber, is that, and also I talked with Nico from Play to Earn about this, that there's less search volume about blockchain gaming right now. There's less traction on every channel. Everyone is experiencing this, which might mean that there's less people interested. But I would say that is happening with crypto overall, because we always have this phenomenon where after every bull cycle, we have lots of people leaving the space. So I wouldn't say it's specific from blockchain gaming. I would say it's more a crypto thing. We have lots of crypto tourists, and this is a phenomenon that happens every time a bull cycle happens. But when I started this project, the Crypto Herd, when I started investing in blockchain gaming, I've always dreamed about metaverse job. So I always imagine that instead of going to a 9-to-5 boring job, people could just log in their favorite metaverse game and earn a living from doing that. And I'm not speaking about esports people. I'm not speaking about professional gamers. I'm speaking about casual and hardcore gamers. So do you think this is possible, Grant? Instead of going to a 9-to-5 boring job,
I
log into
think
the metaverse and, I don't know, mine rocks or gather herbs or whatever role we choose in the metaverse.
Slapping penguins. I
Slapping
do.
penguins.
I believe it's true. One thing I want to comment. You made a good point there. It's, you're seeing a lot less engagement on Twitter, YouTube, whatever, TikTok, these other mediums, and I think that's good. I think you're getting out a lot. Well, it can be good and bad. The problem with the current market is there's a lot of rug pulls, right? And so human psychology, leads you to believe if you get rugged on something, you're going to call it a scam for the rest of your life. And so that's a problem. I mean, when the market swings up and down, like a market that never goes down is an inefficient market, and probably at some point, people start questioning, okay, what's going on here? So I don't necessarily see the decreasing price of assets as the problem. I see these blatant rugs, whether it's different NFT projects and stuff that we should be smarter about. Like when you see, Goblin Town derivatives or the not Amber Heard's turds derivatives. And it's like, what are you guys doing? Like, I mean, I know you're basically gambling is what you're doing, but yeah, I think, back to your question, can you make gaming a 9 to 5? The answer is yes. The key is how do you generate revenue? How do you create a system in which you're consistently pumping in that outside liquidity so that the system does not cannibalize itself? Even something like Steppen, they haven't solved that issue where the new entrants are being essentially funding the old entrants. It's just a traditional Ponzi or a traditional triangle. So from our perspective, you have to generate outside liquidity. This is how actual businesses run, believe it or not. Actual businesses that trade on a NASDAQ or New York Stock Exchange, they have to generate revenue. They issue quarterly statements on how they're doing in terms of their P&L. They show their expenses. They're very transparent about it. When you're dealing with crypto and Web3, where you have these decentralized autonomous wallets, it's very hard to actually find that transparency. So there's a paradox here because we want to believe that Web3 is traditionally decentralized, that we have full control over our keys, our crypto, even if you're looking at what's happening to Celsius today. And I know this isn't blockchain gaming, but I think this is important for the audience to listen to, is you're looking at what's happening in Celsius today, and you see the CEO of Celsius tweet Saturday night, nobody's having an issue withdrawing their money. And the next day, they say no one can withdraw their money. That could happen at any time. So in order to really make gaming a 9 to 5, we first have to generate revenue, use that revenue instead of paying executives, instead of paying board of directors, we use that to pay our players.
That makes sense. I would say that makes sense. Right now, I do believe that many projects rely on player demands, so the amount of value exiting an ecosystem will be compensated in theory by the amount of player demands. I would say that's what's happening in the majority of projects. But you guys have this ads system, right? Where you're going to try to pay players through the ads you're having in game.
And it's not even, they don't feel like ads. Like when you pull it up, you don't have to watch a 15-second video. Like everybody hates that. It's actually a metaverse where you can, where you interact with storefronts and you don't even feel like you're actually being advertised to. It's that's the kind of vibe we're going for. And then sponsored tournaments, obviously putting a branding of a coin or a centralized exchange or an NFT group or another GameFi project all over your game for a weekend, so your community can get exposed to them and potentially put buy pressure on that token or that NFT collection. That's exactly the vibe that we're going to be going for and what we're going to be attaining.
Okay. Do you want to add a comment on this, Mike? Do you think metaverse jobs are going to be possible?
Several things. I mean, well, on what Grant said, I mean, I think, in terms of the NFT stuff and the rug pulls and all that, I do agree this space is it's haunted by it, for lack of a better word. And what I see is to people, a lot of people, there's too much of a merging of kind of the NFT space and the Web3 gaming space. These are actually two different animals, in my opinion. And the people who are doing NFTs that, are just these little crappy pieces of art with no real game behind it and sort of faint promises versus people like us who've made games and fully intend to make our games. The NFTs are just a part of it, as opposed to it being the beginning and end all. And, in terms of people making a living or earning and all that stuff, honestly, I do have mixed feelings, because I think that's going to be fine for a percentage of people, right? And, I keep saying in this space, just like we see in mobile and other types of games, there's different personas. There's different groups people fall into. And there are going to be the people who want to earn, and, what percentage that actually is, like in MMOs, 5% of the people would gold farm, let's say, to supply the rest of the community. What's the right percentage here? But I think there are people who love gaming for the fun of it, first and foremost. And as soon as you mix in, the earning, or force the earning in, and it's hard to make that anything but the primary goal. So I do agree, tournaments are one of the big answers to this, to focus more on fun. And, we look at things from traditional gaming, not even video gaming, like Magic the Gathering, and how you develop a great game first, and then amazing, rewards, earnings, and tournaments will follow. So, but I think, in terms of people having jobs and all that kind of stuff in the metaverse, sure, why not? I think we're still in the stage where we're trying to figure out what it takes to make these economies sustainable, that people can actually do that for the long term. There's blockchain adds a new dimension to this, but we've kind of seen these movies before, if you've been around long enough, and it's maybe, hopefully, blockchain is going to be the missing component to that, where really enables people to, use their own resources and creativity, just like the real world, but in a virtual sense.
That's interesting. So talking about tournaments, you guys also are going to have some tournaments where people are going to be able to earn more tokens, right? With the battle stones and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I believe what Grant was saying in terms of having sponsored tournaments and partnership tournaments with other players in the space, whether they're companies or even the guilds, etc. And that's a way we plan to reward, our supporters and early adopters, and long term, giving even people who want to come in a chance at that if they can get into the tournaments.
That's interesting. Let me just say hi to our viewers. We're having here people joining our first episode of NFT Gaming Talks. So welcome Gaspode, Kadami, KDOE 415, Arturo, Aze, Minecraft. Guys, really happy to have you here with us. Brennan Harris, Sabrican, KG. Welcome to the stream, guys. Make sure you hit that like button so more people join our NFT Gaming Talks. Okay, learn with the true OGs of the space. So, George, you want to add a comment on this? What do you think about this?
Yeah, I think a lot of Mike and what Grant's saying is like spot on with it, except for I'm obviously feeling a little called out, me and my Pablo NFT that I bought like a week ago or something, that definitely falls into the category of nothing but just a pointless little picture that is hilarious and a dude wearing a Spam can. Couldn't tell you if it's up or down, haven't bothered looking. I'm assuming it's gone to zero already, because not only does it not do anything, it's a terrible piece of art. But yeah, the thing that I agree with Mike with is that NFTs and gaming, they're like, yeah, okay, these two, you two play together, you guys are together, but no, that's just a picture. You need our NFT to play our game. Like, everyone talks about having utilities behind NFTs. One of the clearest one with gaming is, if you don't have this NFT, you cannot play this game. You cannot do this in this game. So that's a clear utility, unlike some of the other profile picture NFTs out there that are like, we're going to watch movies together on Discord. There's your utility, mate. Thanks for buying in. So I think that's one thing that really needs to be understood, that a lot of people in our space are people that are into these profile picture NFTs, and eventually it needs to get away to being its own space. Gaming NFTs for gaming are something completely separate. I even know it was my brother. He actually owned Axes because they were cute little pictures. And it was only when I told him I was playing Axie Infinity that he realized it was even a game. He just owned the Axes because they looked cool. He didn't realize it was a game part of it. And that's how intertwined some of this just picture NFTs and gaming NFTs is. Some people don't know that it's part of the game. Happened to me as well with another one. I can't remember the name of the project. I just saw a picture of this mad looking chicken in football gear and thought, wow, that's a cool NFT. And then I found their project on Twitter and they're tweeting about all the different game modes that are coming out as well. And I was like, oh, okay, this is not just a picture of a chicken. I get to play a game eventually with this as well. But yeah, I think once this is separated off as its own space and gaming in NFTs is its own space, I think that's going to help drive the ability to become a metaverse where you can work in. Because I think gaming is going to be one of the largest parts of it, not just everyone with their own little pop-up shops in the metaverse saying, you can buy these NFTs here for a week, and then the pop-up shop disappears out of it.
Well, yeah, that's what I was kind of getting at with, like, we've seen this in the past with like Second Life and things like that. And the things that always succeed are games, you know, like what are the biggest metaverses, Fortnite and Minecraft and Roblox, you know, things with real games in them. Roblox maybe being a hybrid exception.
Mm.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I do think that there's lots of potential here. We're still navigating uncharted waters in NFT gaming. As you guys said, we're still finding out what works, what doesn't work. I do believe it's going to be possible to have metaverse jobs in the future, but I think it's going to require lots of experiencing before. Many projects are going to fail before we find the metaverse where we'll have 9 to 5 jobs. That's what I think. Honestly, lots of potential in gaming, especially with NFTs and crypto. So we're seeing lots of new projects popping up that are not minting out their collections. Do you guys think this is bearish for a project? And what's the best way to deal with this? George, you want to take the lead on this one?
George getting personally attacked here. It took us at CS.
We're with you. Don't worry. You got supporters.
It took us a while to mint out.
But you guys minted everything on.
We've minted everything.
You've minted everything, so it's not.
We did mint everything. It took us slightly longer. I think it depends where people are doing these mints and why people are minting out all their projects. Because I know I've seen a lot of projects that have minted out for gaming completely straight away, and then I've gone to OpenSea and almost half their collection is already listed on OpenSea, ready to flip it straight out and get it sold. So ours took a while. We did it slightly different. I don't know if people in here are aware, but to mint our NFT, you had to use our token, which then burnt the token out of the system. So we actually didn't get anything for anyone minting any of our NFTs. Unlike, I know there's a lot of projects that have been in dubious situations where they've been charging people X amount to mint their NFT, then their game's kind of gone under and they raised all their money from people buying these NFTs in the first place. But yeah, no, I think people are slowing down with some of the mints, but there's always going to be people buying into these games. Like, I don't think anyone should worry about if all their fighters or all their characters have minted out, because if you've minted any, people are still interested in playing your game. And once people have started playing your game, then that's going to drive people to your game. I think people that worry about, we need to mint out on day one. You're not going to get a game for 8 months' time, but we need to mint out on day one. We need to have this done. Otherwise, we failed as a project. I don't think that's how it's going to be. If you've got things to mint by the time you've got a game to play and they're getting it through word of mouth, I think that's going to help everyone massively, because they're going to say, okay, I've minted my fighter. Now I'm playing the game, rather than your original OGs that are like, I've minted my fighter. 6 months have passed. Maybe I'm going to play the game. So I think that's my main thinking of how minting's playing out and what it's doing. I think it depends on how it changes as well, because my personal view of how it's going to change is games are not going to have the tokenomics, and it's going to constantly be minting these different NFTs within their games to do stuff as well, to get away from the infinite generation, which is like in SLP. So I don't think projects, I guess with the characters, it still might have mint limits or should have mint limits. But I think with some of the items, like I know what game is it I'm playing? Sunflower Land. I can my pumpkins, I can sync them to the blockchain. Then I can go sell all my pumpkins. Say if someone needs the pumpkins on the blockchain as an NFT, where I don't have to worry about their tokens. So I think in general, I think the way minting's going for a lot of projects can go well, but I think people might focus on the wrong thing if they're constantly like, we need to mint out day one.
Well, it's kind of like back to the last question, right? Like, where does that sentiment comes from? It comes from the NFT world, like, but I think with this space, it's just going to be different. The whole space is shifting. The market right now is obviously horrific and people are being very conservative. We're in the middle of our mint. We chose not to do a public mint, and we're looking at it glass half full as opposed to half empty. I mean, we're the people who did mint, and we were not cheap. It's all relative, I suppose, but we're giving a lot of value and utility and delivering a game in just a few months this summer. And we feel now is the time really to focus on those people who did mint, your core community, but also just your community in general, and really rewarding them and building support and loyalty. And that's definitely what we plan to do. Definitely reward people who did mint first and foremost, the most, and then the community in general. Because we don't want to have those kind of barriers to be able to get into the game and play, especially when we're in the middle of a cycle like this. It's everything's great in a bull and not so much in a bear. So we have to be prepared to adjust for different climates.
That's right. So what's your strategy, Mike? If you actually don't mint out NFTs, what are you going to do with the unminted NFTs? What's your strategy? Are you guys burning them?
Yeah, a great question. I mean, the biggest thing, and we'll probably make an announcement in the next couple of days. And first and foremost, listening to the community. And I also think along with that, the biggest thing you don't want to do, like you're saying, George, is kind of flood the market and then see a big dump off and the price. We want to try to keep the price for the people who did buy it and reward them and not flood the market. So we've said repeatedly, though, that we have a surplus pool and we'll hold on to those. And based on what the community wants to do, whether it's getting them to our partners, our community, to get them into the game through lending, renting, or just free play, everything's on the table.
Okay, interesting. So what about you, Grant? I believe you guys in your original collection, you also didn't mint out like a percentage of the NFTs. What was your strategy back then?
Yeah, well, from our perspective, and I mean, this is the problem with NFT people, right? We obviously can't force anyone to buy anything. We did a private sale where we were doing a lot of whitelist. It helped us grow our Discord, really helped us grow our Twitter. But what people realize is once there wasn't an immediate 2x, since we actually price things pretty accurately, you can reflect that in our secondary pricing right now on OpenSea. Once they realized, oh shit, there's not a quick 2x, they were just like, not worth my time. That's just how hot the market was back then. And so from our perspective, that was a little frustrating to see. However, it was such a blessing in disguise because now you see where the market is moving and we have such a rabid community. I mean, we have 2,500 NFTs in the Genesis collection and, they're still holding strong. I'd say we're right up there with any other play to earn project in terms of how the floor is holding up. But yeah, I mean, it is a challenge. We didn't want to go to a public sale because we didn't want the bots to eat everything up. And, you're always going to deal with that kind of stuff. And so, you're looking at the market right now and you're saying, I think to Mike's point, you have to have a game. A lot of people are just Web2 gamers. They have no interest in earning whatsoever. And then you have people in Web3, that's all they care about is the tokenomics and how can I exploit and try to take as much as I can from the system. So you really have to have a a balance of the two. You have to have a fun game, but you also have to have the ability for those players to earn. That's why with Undead Blocks, we're doing those tournaments where, if you finish in first place in an Undead Blocks tournament, you're going to make $1,000. And so from our perspective, that's something to write home about. That's a lot more intriguing than just logging on, taking your $3 and coming back the next day. Like, yeah, I guess that's passive income, but that's not fun. Then it just becomes work. It just becomes click and earn. At that point, you become a zombie yourself. So it always is going to be a balance. I think anyone that calls himself a play to earn expert is absolutely lying to you. But by having a game, what that allows you to do is throw the spaghetti at the wall and say what sticks, what doesn't stick. Like, try different things, try to engage your community in different ways, try to find different ways to pique their interest, whether it is those tournaments or daily earning or fun stuff in game that could potentially earn them money real time. Whatever it is, throw all that spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Okay, but what about the unminted NFTs? What does a project do with unminted NFTs?
So we actually just said we're capping it at 2,500. We didn't have so with our smart contract, we could just cap it at 2,500. We wanted to sell 6,000, and so once we got to about 1,500, we saw that the second day, things were pretty stale, and we said, we just don't want to leave this open ended. So we said, okay, we're just going to mint 2,500. Within like 3 hours, we minted those other 1,000. What we realized is people don't actually like open-ended collections. They want to feel exclusive. So that was a pretty good learning lesson for us. But we actually just, we stopped the 2,500. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right. I agree with you. We have here such different communities. We have the Web2 gamers who just want to arrive home and chill and play a game. And we have the Web3 gamers where most of them just want to exploit the ecosystem. So I believe that for founders, developers, it's quite hard to deal with such different communities here.
And George, one thing I want to tell you is it's not like the Web2 sector is real thrilled with gaming right now. Look at what happened with Diablo. I think it was this week, maybe last week. People talking about Diablo, and they're like, "Wait a minute! I have to spend 40 racks to basically level up my entire like, what is going on?" So it's not like the Web2 gamers have figured this out, but what they can rely on is the game. Once the Web3 crowd brings those actual fun games, then you're going to see a civil war. You're going to have your purists versus your opportunists, and that's when we're going to have this discussion, because right now it is not even a fair fight. The Web2 gamers, they have these, high salary staff devs that are just so talented but they're also making serious money. They have 401k, they have health insurance. And so who eats all of that cost? It is the gamers, because at the end of the day, they just want to generate revenue. And I'll be completely honest, they want to take from you. And so that's where as soon as those Web3, more developers like us come back, we strike back. We put out games that are very close to AAA quality, allow people to earn, and even give them an opportunity to earn for free. Let them earn for free and bring those Web2 people in and say, okay, this is cool. And then, really try to push hard for some NFTs. That might actually be the most optimal strategy. And it's something we're considering in Undead Blocks, running these free to play to the public tournaments. Look at the Ariana Grande concert in Fortnite. I'm sure you guys all saw it. 27.5 million people attended that thing. How many people would attend a free-to-play Undead Blocks zombie killing session for $50,000? It's just, we don't know yet, and we're really excited to see. But, throw that spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, and then just really lean into it.
Well, it's like you said earlier, Grant, about taking it away from, what you said, the executives or the whatever, and giving it back to the player. What I always say is taking it away from Steam and Apple and the platforms. We're giving 30% to these guys. We can give that all back to the community. And kind of like what you're saying, I've talked about too, which is think about how much money in mobile gaming is given to user acquisition, right? And these mobile ad companies that none of that filters to the players, right? But it's a massive industry where why not spend that money and, like you're saying, give it directly to the players in a tournament, saying, hey, user acquisition, actually give it to the users, not the ad company.
And then that's going to be your ad for you as well. A boy going, hey, I killed like 12 zombies and I did it the quickest and I got all this money. That's better ad than stopping your gameplay to say, have you ever seen someone try and put different colored waters in a bottle terribly?
Yeah.
Could you do this better? Download our game to prove you're smarter than this ad.
Right.
No,
The better ad is
thanks.
like, you want to make $10 or $50, just sign up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I would say that's a very wise strategy to bring some value to the community, to the players, to the ones who believe in your project. So I'm actually quite curious. Do you guys invest in blockchain gaming or do you just focus on developing your projects? If you'd invest, what will be the characteristics a Web3 game must have in order to be successful from an investment perspective? Mike, you want to take the lead on this one?
Sure. I mean, we aren't investing in other games, but I am advising lots of friends and other projects I've been introduced to. So I kind of have been trying to help others in the space. Yeah, I mean, I think the most important things in this space from an investment standpoint is it's really the same things as always, right? Like, who's the team behind it? Who are you investing in? What's their track record? Or even if they don't have one, do they have a demo? How talented are they, etc. What they're making and the strategy, which, in this space is constantly shifting, and that's why I think the playbook 6 months ago, is not necessarily the playbook now. And I feel like there's still tons of capital out there to be raised because you have all these funds who've raised insane amounts of money. They have to deploy it or it goes back. And so we're going to still see a massive influx of new companies coming into this space, of companies raising more money. I think, as people have said, in bear markets, etc., this is when you want to double down if you're truly, on your convictions, if you truly believe in something. Axie, this whole space was really born out of the last bear cycle. So it's kind of exciting in that sense to think about what's going to come next.
Yeah, that's true. In NFT gaming, we never seen a bear market. We never dealt with this sentiment that we have right now. There's fear in the market. People are dumping everything. And it is, as I said, we are in uncharted waters in blockchain gaming. George, you were going to...
I was just going to say, to add, sorry, is just the difference is that you have a lot of companies that are well-funded, ones who didn't just fully rely on their NFTs or tokens like us, who raise money from big partners. I don't know as much about George, but I know Grant and I share Animoca and other great partners. And, that's what's going to keep us in this for the long term.
Yeah, that's one of the things I like about Planet Mojo is that you guys are only doing the IDO after you actually release the game, right?
So that's always been our strategy, and right now it's looking wise because I don't think it's a great time to be releasing a token.
Yeah, so you're not dependent on the funds of the IDO in order to develop your project. That's great. George, you were going to say something?
Yeah. So I'm not quite as fancy as the other two gentlemen we joined with, founders of their project. I am just a mere cog in the wheel. I like to feel an important cog in our CFC wheel, but I'm down as tech lead, but I actually do a variety of things like to do with in how our games get made, game design, overseeing all that sort of stuff as well. And one of the main things I do is research other games. So I go out and I go and play all sorts of games. I think I'm on to a Excel sheet of about 15 games for maybe the last 2 weeks or something. So I whether that's been talking to a project and seeing if they'll let me play their game or just spending money to get into their game. I was going to say,
you mean every game in the crypto space? Because
I'll talk to anybody if they'll let me play their game, basically, just to see what other people are doing. But yeah, I'm glad to hear about the way you're setting your Planet Mojo to come out. There's 2 other projects that I've been getting into as well that did a similar sort of thing. They're all completely pre-funded. One of them, if your NFT isn't worth the same between now and 6 months' time, if you haven't interacted with the generation of the token it makes daily or used it to play a game, they'll refund your initial mint price. because they're completely pre-funded, so they don't need to hold on to your money to develop their game. I think that's a fantastic one. The other one is a Solana project. It's called Honeyland or Beeland. I get the name confused all the time. What they're doing is, if anyone lists one of their eggs or their bee eggs, I don't know what they actually call it. It looks like an egg for a bee with wings, so it's quite confusing to me. But if you list that below the minted price, they come along and just buy it off the market. So it's essentially the same idea of you get refunded your money for minting into it. So that's one of the best things I've seen recently, is like this insurance that people who've put all this money in, if the game doesn't turn out the way they want, they've got the ability to get this money back. And I think that's a fantastic thing. Obviously, that's super difficult to do, to get pre-funded to the amount where you can say, yeah, we're going to do that. So it's good to hear some of you guys' projects are to that level. That's awesome. But another thing, I've completely lost my train of thought there with my own original.
I do it all the time.
But yeah, so, and then the other thing you touched on there, Mike, is about the projects, seeing the team behind a project. If I go to a game and it's just, I know for our project we use our blockhead avatars, but then you can click on a link and it takes you to my LinkedIn profile, it takes you to my Twitter. I'm a real human. If this project goes really terrible and we straight up rug everybody, that LinkedIn profile that I've been creating for, I think it's like 11 years old now, that's gone too. Me having that connection to all these other people to get further employment if the worst ever did happen, that's out the window, because now if you've got a team that is fully doxed and you know everything about them behind the project, if that project purposely fails, you can hold them accountable. Like people keep getting rug. They use that for everything, but there's a difference between purposely exploiting people and taking all that money and unfortunately your project not working out the way you want it to do and going to the same extreme as being rugged. But there's definitely, one's malicious and one is people have tried their best. They've tried to make you a decent project. They've tried to make you a game and it's just not worked out.
I mean, when we first started doing AMAs, honestly, our team was sort of laughing at those kind of questions because they were so ludicrous to us. But then, of course, we quickly realized how it is so serious to people because it has happened so much. But we're just like, most of the teams have been making games for over 20 years, in my case more. So it's like, this is what we do. This is the whole reason we got into this, was to make the game. And it's the last thing from our mind. Like you said, if we did do anything like that or a rug pull, it's kind of like we'll have a hard time working in games, period, again. So we're in it for the long haul. That's always been our intention.
That's right. We have members from LucasArts, Happy Giant, right? All your members are already experienced in Web2 gaming.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, no, a great team. People I worked with at Lucas, EA, Activision, and people from this world who keep us in line.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the things I usually look into before investing in NFT gaming is the team. How experienced are they? How transparent are they? Are they doing AMAs? Are they being honest with the community? Another thing I usually look into are like tokenomics, total amount of tokens released, and also like the game itself. Obviously, it has to be good. We already know that. Clickers don't really work in the long term, and those are just a few of the things I look into before putting my money on the line. What about you, Grant? Do you usually invest in other blockchain gaming projects?
Well, Mike, I just want to say, first of all, you're a legend. Second of all, the approach you're taking with not doing the IDO until the game, I love that. We took a similar approach. We didn't launch our token until our beta was out and people were playing it, and we realized we have a winner here, something that is actually people want to enjoy and it's fun and it's friendly. I think you're absolutely right. When we first entered, we've been working on Undead Blocks for about a year now, and we saw all these people talking about like getting rugged. I was literally the same way. I kind of laughed. I was like, what the hell are you guys talking about? And then I physically just saw it happening every single day where you'd see these YouTubers pop up and they'd say, is this the next 100x? Is this the next 200x? And I'm coming from the world of, working in banking, like Goldman Sachs, is where I spent about 3.5 years. And I'm looking at this and saying, if you're up 20% in a year, you had a damn good year. Like 0.2x it was great, and you're talking about 100xing, 200xing your investment. I was like, you people are insane. It's crazy. And so from our perspective, even when we launched our token, like we launched at 60 cents, we're at about 95 right now. So we're doing well. And the reason why is because we also didn't give away 20% of our token to VCs to just have them dump all over us. And we chose our partners very carefully. With the reason why I say this is because, to Bruno, answer your question, other blockchain games I am looking at and I'm friends with is anything backed by Animoca. Animoca Brands is, I think, the leader in terms of blockchain gaming. Obviously, I'm biased since they invested in us, but you're looking at stuff like Phantom Galaxies, the Red Village. I've personally spoken with them. I'm pretty close with them, and they're doing some awesome stuff. We are in a chat with the Illuvium founders, with your boy Kieran and his brother. I think they've got a lot of awesome stuff going on. Meta Ops looks really cool. I think EV.io looks really cool, more of a Counter-Strike vibe. And I know this is a hot take, but I want all of these other games to succeed, because if they succeed, that means their token goes up, their NFT goes up, it provides more liquidity. Then it gives people a chance to be like, this is awesome, this is working, what else can I invest in? And then boom, they pivot over to Undead Blocks. They're into FPS, they're into zombie shooters. I want every single game to succeed. I mean, if you hold a gun to my head, I don't want anyone to make another play to earn zombie shooter. That's FPS, obviously. That wouldn't be great. But these other genres, I want them to go for it. I want them to be an insane success, because more people making money equals more liquidity, equals more potential eyeballs on our game. And so it's just a completely radical different way of thinking it. Like I had people coming up to me in Austin this weekend, and they're saying, did you see what this group, did you see what that group did? Oh boy, I hope they don't overtake you. And I'm like, bro, relax, chill. Like, these other games, when Apple does well, Amazon does well. You're literally seeing it today. Everything is dumping. Just because Bitcoin and Ethereum are dumping doesn't mean that, and I'm going to pick out a couple random ones. This is not financial advice. Just like, doesn't mean like Kronos or Polkadot or Algorand or, are terrible businesses. They're all just taking collateral damage from the big players, Bitcoin and Ethereum.
That's right.
So, again, I'm not invested in any of those projects. It's just the first ones that came to my mind. So I want everyone to be successful in blockchain gaming. I want it so bad. I don't want people to lose money. I don't want people to get rugged, because that reduces the user base. That's one sure way of reducing the user base. Look, if a game isn't fun and you're still earning whatever, there will always be people that are going to farm for yield. But these blatant polls, where they're actually not developing a game at all, that's frustrating. And so, like I said, if I had to pick, it would be anything backed by Animoca. Love them. Phantom Galaxies looks absolutely insane. I know they had a really successful Planet sale. I'd go back to the Red Village, Luvium, Meta Ops, and what was the last one? EV.io. Those would be my top 5.
Well, that's actually interesting. You mentioned Animoca Brands. I also like Animoca Brands, but I would say that you have to look into, I always look into other things, because, for example, Animoca Brands is kind of like partnering up with the Titan Arena, and Titan Arena as a Web3 game from a financial point of view was a total failure. So
absolutely. But I would say Titan Arena is probably one of the funner play to earn games. If you actually play Titan, it's not that bad. It's actually playable. It's not brutal, but you're not earning anything. And that's true. I mean, Animoca has a lot invested. Like, they're invested with the other side. And we all saw how that mint went. That wasn't, on Animoca, but what was it? $250 million in gas fees on the Ethereum network eaten up to mint virtual land. You're looking at that and you're saying, what are we doing? So I'm just I believe in their model. I believe in their vision, and speaking with their executives, I really love what they're doing. But you're right. I mean, not everybody's going to hit on everything. And so from our perspective, it's just a matter of what's your track record look like. They're I think at the top of the line in terms of blockchain gaming VCs.
I agree with that. Definitely.
I agree with you too about the competition. We always say this in AMAs because we're always asked, like, what makes you guys better than the rest, and blah blah blah. And really, it sounds like kumbaya stuff, but in this space, it really is true that, like, you know, the rising tides lifts all boats, and if there's a, and then the reverse is true too. If there's a bad article about Axie, it hurts all of us, you know. So we want as many games as possible to succeed, because that's just going to show more proofs, more example cases to other gamers being like, hey, this space is legit. There's, you know, it's not just Ponzi schemes, etc.
I think that comes a lot into some people's misinterpretation that you only play one game.
Yeah.
Hell no, I'm playing all sorts of different games.
Dude, I got like
and
20 I circulate
money
through.
in
I mean,
killing zombies, and then I can see like Mike's game or a fighting game or a racing game, I'm going to play that as well, because it's not killing zombies. Like, I've earned money in killing zombies. I've had fun with an FPS, but I don't just play one game at a time. That's ridiculous.
if you played one game at a time, no matter how much you're earning, unless if it's literally hundreds of dollars a day, you're going to get sick of it and you're eventually going to want to move on. It's just humans are not trained and not built psychologically to continue doing the same activity over and over again.
Like variety.
Yeah, content. You need different contents. Yeah. So, guys, that leads us to the next question. So, when it comes to blockchain gaming economies, we're seeing new models now, and people notice that X Infinity's old model and PegX's model doesn't really work. So, what are the main points of a long-term sustainable economy in a Web3 game? Grant, you want to take the lead on these ones since you have like a degree in economics or something?
Yeah, I went to school for math. I had a minor in economics. I don't use it. I think it's good you bring, because this is my favorite topic, and has to be fixed supply. Fixed supply of the reward. You can't just automatically just hyperinflate your supply and say anybody can earn at any given time and create this asset out of scratch, the secondary currency, and you just assign it value, no matter how many burn mechanics you have, in my opinion.
So what you're saying is that breeding doesn't really work. These games are just breed.
I personally believe that breeding is terrible, and I believe that is where Axie went wrong, is because the value of their NFTs went to zero, the value of SLP went to zero, because they were trying to acquire users. And I get that. You want those daily active users to go up, but you're diluting the value of everybody else's asset. Like, it's hard. I truly believe what we're doing with having a fixed amount of NFTs, fixed amount of supply in terms of how much is being distributed to those NFT holders, and then having free to play to the public tournaments to generate users, and then eventually hitting them with the battle pass, where it's like, okay, now you just have to hold X amount of token, you get access to all these events, and you get access to different things, but also still having free to play stuff keeps people engaged, keeps those people coming in, because eventually people say, oh, I'm tired of Undead Blocks, but we need those new players to be like, this is really fun. Fortnite went through waves. I think we all realized that. Fortnite grew exponentially, and then it was there for a while. They peaked at the Ariana Grande concert. Twice I've mentioned that today. If you had that over under 1.5 on your gambling card, you cashed there. And then Fortnite interest started going down. So what they did was they put in the Fortnite no build, and then all of a sudden it's right back, and everybody's loving the no build. So you've got to keep finding ways to bring in players and then bring them back. And so from our perspective, having that free to play mode is huge, because then those Web2 gamers can come over and say, oh, no risk. I'm not going to lose money. I just want to try a new game. Give us feedback. Tell us how to make it more fun. But in terms of the blockchain economy, just from a purist perspective, fixed payouts every day. You cannot hyperinflate and just keep assigning value to something that truly does not have tangible value, or it's not collateralized by anything. So from our perspective, managing your treasury, having fixed payouts, something that is collateralized against an asset that retains value, is everything.
So I guess the idea is also to know exactly how much value can exit the ecosystem every day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So how
much you
have
need
to
to generate in revenue. And if you're not generating that revenue, have a reserve. That's why we only raised 5% in terms of our venture capital fund, so we could establish that kill to earn fund, where basically a quarter of all tokens are going to be used to pay players. They could have that token. And then it's a matter of, do they want to sell that token, or do they want to hold it, or do they want to stake it? We'll give them the choice. But that kill to earn fund is huge for us. Instead of having venture capital firms dumping all over us, every single quarter, it's going to be much easier for us to say and control the supply by saying, we have this battle pass here where if you want to play the game and earn and have exclusive access to tournaments and quests and challenges, people love the battle pass model. You'd be surprised. These Web 2 gamers, they're not making a dime from this, and they love the seasonal battle pass model. I don't know what it is. Truly, like psychologically, I don't understand it. Maybe it's just the exclusivity or feeling like you're completing a challenge, but they love it, and we want to replicate that as much as we can. In Undead Blocks.
There was about a 10-page article I'm about halfway through this weekend on a deconstructor of fun about battle passes. You should read it, Grant. And it's pretty fascinating because, yes, as powerful as they are, and they make the case they're only going to get more of them, they're also, and of course, they don't contemplate Web3 at all. So it's even more explosive there. But they also say how they can really destroy game economies if you're not super careful. And this has even happened with big games like Clash Royale, who you would think know what they're doing, and it literally gutted their entire economy. So like this is something we're planning on doing, but I also sent that to my designers and be like, we have to be very careful with this.
Completely agree. That's why we're not committing to a number in terms of tokens, but I will tell you, we're doing a little modified version where if you hold the token, you get access to every battle pass. It's not like a one-time burn, like it costs X amount of undead and then you never get that undead back. We want you to just have access to the club.
Stake it to get in.
Not even stake it. Just hold it in your wallet.
Just hold it in your wallet.
And then our software can actually recognize how much token
that's what, we're doing something similar with the Mojos if you hold them.
I don't believe in just having one-time burn and then done. Like, that just is a terrible user experience. That's why people want to get off of Web 2 gaming, because they feel like they're just paying and paying and paying and getting fucked. Like, they're just like, what am I getting out of this other than engagement? Like, you should hold that battle pass as an asset. And the way we define value to that asset is by having you hold X amount of undead, basically.
That's interesting. That creates buying pressure and demand for the NFT or the tokens.
Right. And how do you provide utility for gaming tokens? I see this all the time, even just from the venture capital friends I have. They say, how do you, like, your token is cool, it's great, it's trading, but besides speculating on the asset, what does it do? It's a utility token. You're calling it a utility token. What utility does it have? And so if you are just very clear about that defined utility, you will give it utility. But until actual games prove that, you physically need this thing to have access to the ecosystem, people are just going to look at it as a speculative asset.
Okay. Interesting. That's really interesting points, Grant, definitely. Because, utility is what creates the demand, and it's what is going to contribute for the sustainability of the ecosystem. So when it comes to tokenomics, I think we already talked a bit about this, already touched these points, but let's go deeper into this. When it comes to tokenomics, we're seeing lots of projects where the fully diluted market is like 30 times bigger than the market cap, which kind of means that there are so many tokens locked because of private rounds, seed rounds, etc., etc. And it has these vesting periods as well. And I know many people who are scared because of this, because at some points these tokens are going to be unlocked and probably dumped into the market because these people who invested early, they're on huge profit at that point. So from your opinion, what would be a good funding strategy that would avoid having so many tokens locked in the hands of investors? George, do you want to take the lead on this one?
Sure. I'll go into this one, try and do some big brain Grant maths and token analytic stuff for you guys. But my main thing, it's kind of in line with something we're going down with CFC. But if I was to do a project differently, I don't like a lot of the games I've played that don't have their own token. The best experience I've had. You don't have to worry about having these people locked into a token. You don't have to worry about your token
like
price.
Blankos. Blankos only has NFTs, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The model. Oh, sorry.
No, you go.
I'll let
sorry.
you finish, Bruno, because otherwise I'll start monologuing and you might forget what you're going to say.
No, I was saying that Blancos is an example of a project that doesn't have a token. They just have this battle pass or party pass in this case, and they just have NFTs. And this project has been battle tested, has been around for such a long time, and it has a big community. People are bullish on it. So I think it's one of the few cases that we have of a long-term sustainable economy, you can call it that.
Yeah, the way I see it is the NFTs are the thing that people earn from. It also makes it a lot harder for people to just to be able to take a look and be like, oh no, their token's down, their game must be terrible. Your price of your token has little relevance to how good of a gaming experience you're going to have with the game. That's one thing that I think is a huge problem with the token price, because your game could be fantastic. It could be better than any triple game out there. But if someone goes to your chart on CoinMarketCap or PooCoin and sees your tokens in the gutter, they're not even going to check out your game. So the main ones I've liked Blancos. I think another one I was looking at was Tiny Worlds, where everything you see is your NFT of your character or your NFT of a weapon or something like that. And then you just use straight up BUSD to buy it. So you don't have to control what's going on with the token. You just need to control what's going on with your NFTs. And then people can be selling the items they're finding. I've always described my favorite type of game that I'd love to ever see as an NFT game would be a game like 7 Days to Die, where everything I go out and I loot from a house then becomes an NFT. Yeah, sure. Most of them aren't going to be worth much, but say like I find a tier 6 gun in a house or whatever, I can sell that as an NFT and get BUSD or whatever the change like stable coin currency is straight to myself from selling this NFT. So I know the problem that people will always see with the tokenomics is there's always going to be the hard part of if you are a game that isn't funded from the outside, like the ones I touched on earlier that can give you your money back. Yeah, there is going to be some big boys that have put some big money into your game that are going to have a large access to token. And it is their discretion to dump it on you. And most of these people, they're not interested in the projects they've invested money in. They only think this seems like a cool project to the point that it's going to make us money. There is a lot of the vulture type capitalists out there that are doing this just because they're thinking this game's going to launch. It's going to 5x at launch. We're going to dump on that 5x straight away. And then the token's just going to plateau for the rest of the time. They're only in it for the money. They're not really supporting your project. They're supporting themselves to siphon money off of your project. That's why I'm a big starting to believe that I think NFTs in your game is the way to go and not have your own built out token. But
do you guys want to add a comment on this, Grant and Mike? Like viable funding strategies without having
I mean, I don't, I think there are, you're probably right. There's probably, probably a larger percentage of investors you need to be very careful with. We tried to be very careful with who we've raised funds with, the people who were in it for the long term. Like I don't see an Animoca being like, oh, it's the quarter, let's dump our tokens. They're much more in it for the long term and want to see this space grow and succeed. And that's the kind of type of funds we wanted to. Obviously, you're always going to have some people, and depending on the market, etc. But yeah, it's something you have to navigate in this space.
Okay.
I will say, I would only slightly disagree with George, because if every person in the ecosystem needs an NFT, the more you generate those daily active users, the more NFTs, and then those NFT holders just get frankly pissed when they're like, well, there's more supply now. I guess my equity has been diluted in access to the ecosystem. So I don't know. I don't really know what the answer is. I would actually think I love the token idea where, if you hold X amount of this token, you now have, access to things. And so that allows for that mass adoption because there are so many tokens. And even if there are more tokens unlocking, whether that is through venture capital fund, ecosystem fund, team fund, that is quickly eaten up by new players that just want to experience a fun game because their friends have told them about said game. If we're continuously minting those NFTs, then those people that are holding that NFT are like, frankly, I'm now having a diluted piece of this ecosystem. I don't know if I'm thinking about that correctly. That's just kind of my gut feeling. But
the other way to think about it, if I can interject, maybe, and I'm just spitballing.
Oh, I love a good interjection.
Yeah, I'm just spitballing, but like think about a game like Magic the Gathering, right? Like you always can have access and buy the normal cards.
True.
But there are some cards that people want and covet. And I think that's like what George was saying was like, oh, maybe I find that one class 6 weapon that's like 1 in 1,000 chances or whatever. So, maybe there's a balance there. I get what you're saying too, though, about like over minting and, there's no one right answer here. That's the one thing.
I think one of the things I left out, because in my mind it's my plan, so I knew this part, but it's something we're doing CFC. It goes against what you were saying in your one as well, Grant, of having a fixed supply of NFTs. It's a soft cap type style thing of these NFTs have a durability. So for CFC, we're bringing in wearables, or I think the name Meta Merch has been thrown around. I'm going to stick with wearables. I like that name. But it's like the same thing of you've got gloves. These gloves don't last forever, and
They're
that's
decomposable. Yeah.
But then you can use something else to take them back up to say 10's their max durability.
Repair them.
And they go down.
Yeah.
So it's not like Axie where you've bred in this Axie. It doesn't get old. It doesn't die, so you have more horses, which would be the equivalent for Axie. But with this you get your wearable, it degrades down. You can either rebuild that one, or you can take your chance on the next one and see how that goes. So I think having
nice
supply, but a soft cap that always pushes you down to having either the original amount or less than, with the ability to go in and say, no, I just want to stick with this one. I want to keep repairing it. I want to keep refreshing it. But any game that does that model is definitely better. I feel like definitely should have included that. Otherwise, I'm just minting SLP the same way that the infinitely generated token is.
Do you already have many projects out there with this model of repairing NFTs, or do you know any of?
Not that I've come across so far, but this is the thing I keep pressing, because we've always known we were going to put wearables into a fighting game, because everybody wears different gear when they're fighting in real life, in games. You gear yourself up. You always imagine the RPG slots. You've got your head, your shoulders, all that type of stuff. Always made sense.
Exactly. It comes from that world. It's very common.
Exactly.
Web 2.
And the problem is how we're going to implement this. Obviously, I'm not the main dude, so this is my way of pushing it, and it seems to be getting good reception from everyone else in the team. Is that make it so they have 10 durability, they go down. You can either combine a new one or 2 used ones together to get your durability back. You straight up can repair one, or you can straight up let one disappear and then bring another one in. So there's always a way that it's almost the opposite to breeding. Adding 2 of them together makes 1, whereas in the games that you're breeding, adding 2 together makes 3. So I feel that's a good way to do it. I've not seen any that are fully doing that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's more commonplace in the ones that only are with NFTs at the moment. I know there's ones that I'm in. It's called Bulls and Apes project, and their idea is you have 2 bulls mate together. Don't ask me how that happens, because these are 2 bulls mating together to make another one. But then with the ones that come off of it, you add 10 of those together and X amount of token and this other item, and you create a god bull. So you're getting less amount of NFTs, but you're working your way up kind of like a tier system by smashing them together.
Actually, I think we have here Brennan Harry saying that Titan Arena has this similar system where NFTs degrades. I think we have this with the NFT heroes, but I believe in Titan Arena, everything else failed in its economy. So even though they're not earning, because when the heroes get to 0, they stop earning tokens. I think players really don't care about that because the token is worthless. So.
Yeah, I gave up on my Theton Arena character before I even got to that situation, because I got to a certain rank and then I was just playing with bots or against bots all the time. I was like, okay, this isn't fun anymore. Can I stop?
Okay, by the way, guys, for everyone watching the stream right now, make sure you hit the like button so more people join these NFT gaming talks. The first one we're having with the true OGs of the space. For those of you who arrived later, we have Grant Haseley, founder of the Undead Blocks project, Mike, founder of Planet Mojo right here, and George, tech lead in Crypto Fight Club. Guys, these are the true OGs of the space. They're not amateurs. They know what they're doing. And we're going to have more episodes like these with other founders and important members of the community. So make sure you subscribe to the Crypto Herd. Really soon, we're going to have community questions. So make sure you start thinking about what you want to ask to this gentleman. So, guys, next question. This one goes for Mike. So I see so many projects. That have like this dual token economy where one of the tokens is like a utility token and there's like this unlimited supply, and then the other token has a limited supply, and the only utility I see in this token is governance. I mean, can we really have governance in a really in an early stage of development of a project?
Well, I think, the way we look at governance and decentralization and it's a progressive situation, really. Progressive decentralization. And I read a whole article about this from some guy, I can't remember now, but it's sort of basically making the point that to get to decentralization, you have to have centralization at the beginning. You have to have a team that's committed and focused and making decisions to make something, and then over time the decentralization, governance, etc. comes in, and that's kind of how we're looking at it. We're going to be involving the community and voting and things right away, really, once the game comes out or sooner. But in terms of official governance, voting, bigger decisions, I think that comes in over time. That's sort of the promised land, that you're trying to get to, really. I think that's the key. And to do it too quickly could completely derail a project. So no one knows the answer, because really no one in this space has done it successfully that I know of. I think people are, I see Splinterlands honestly making a lot of headway in that space in terms of what they've been doing recently. So yeah, it's going to be something that, again, that's why we want everyone to be successful, and we'll be moving towards that, I think. And, for us, we started with a single token economy. Introducing governance will come later, using it as rewards and other kind of clever mechanisms, as Grant is talking about, to get players to, really be subscribed and fully invested in the token as part of the game.
Okay. So do you guys want to add a comment on this? Governance in NFT gaming. What do you guys think? Can we really have community members taking important decisions in a Web3 game?
Well, it depends. So there are things that we want our community to get really invested in and things that we don't. Like, for example, if we had the community tell us we're going to hire 5 devs, for example, to keep it small, how do we determine who's the best? Like, how do you go through resumes? How do you look at previous proof of work? There are some things that you need to have a centralized component to, especially in gaming, because physically people are developing the game. Until we create these mega machines that are both crypto tokenomics geniuses and game developers at the same time, it's impossible to have a completely decentralized organization in NFT gaming. I truly believe that, because there are physically people creating the game on your behalf. Now, the path in which the game takes on, for example, voting on where the next map will be, voting on additional weapons, voting to potentially mint more NFTs and have people join the club, voting on the payout structure, voting on, tournament structure, stuff like that, completely should be fully governed by the gamers themselves. We're building this game for you. It's not for us, it's for you. But in terms of game development, voting on how heavy to make the map, working on, how many polygons are on the map. Like, that stuff isn't going to work. It's not going to fly for traditional gamers because they're the ones enjoying the game, not building it. So I think it's give and take. I think more of the actual game development needs to be centralized. It needs to be, or else there's going to be absolute chaos. But in terms of the actual metaverse, the game itself, oh yeah, I say just give them all the power and let the community decide, because at the end of the day, they're the ones playing it. They're the ones investing it. They should be the ones that dictate where the story goes.
Okay. George, you want to add a comment on this? Do you have governance in Crypto Fight Club, or are you planning to implement governance on that?
I think it's in there. It's all stuff that we definitely want to look into, have as well. But I think, like, touching on Grant's main point there, or what I was taking away mainly from both of what you've said, is people need, and your community needs, like, yeah, great, there's something you need to like work with, but there's some things that just don't make sense for them to vote on, or don't make sense for everybody to be like, this is what we should do, because that could then, instead of your project going in this straight line to success, depending on how your votes are going, it could weave you a massive path to get to the same end goal, because you don't have one captain of the ship saying, okay, we need to go here. Okay, yeah, we've decided we're doing this, but this is where we need to end up. Because I think with a lot of the stuff which can just be thrown out to a vote, you're going to lose your main direction and your main point, because you might start with different community members that you finished with as well. So like everyone's opinions could be changing and taking you into these different locations that maybe you didn't want to go in, and could be detrimental to yourself as well. So I think with what Grant's touched on, definitely with the game development side, for sure, like, people can vote on stuff that makes sense. If it takes you massively away from what you're going through, then it doesn't make sense. For example, if a vote came up to change CFC from a fighting game to a space pilot game, and everyone voted to make it a space pilot game, ridiculous. There's no requirement for that to ever go to a vote. Like, yeah, okay, cool, we'll just throw away our whole game and make something.
Well, especially if you're tying governance to tokens, because then you can have someone like Warren Buffett take over and do something crazy, to your game. And yeah, I always give the example, like, when Hollywood films are made by focus groups, and dictated by algorithms, they're usually horrible. It's really when it comes from a true creative person or team, that, and same with games, you can't be doing scripts by committee, game design by committees, but there are certain things like Grant was like, you both were saying, just like, hey, here's 6 new champion types we're going to introduce, or everyone put in requests, for the different, animal types we want to add, and have people vote on that. Because, again, we want people to give people what they want up to a certain point, because really, at a certain point, people don't know what they want, and then they want to be entertained as well.
Yeah, it's the option of giving people too many things as well. If everyone can vote on everything, you can never choose one thing, because you've got this ever expansive choice and you're overwhelmed by the crippling pressure of decision. And with your thing you're saying there of scripts by committee, that makes me think of my longtime game reviewer that I watch of Zero Punctuation, that describes it as the ever-growing grey amorphous blob that is committee-driven games, where it's just bland and mediocre across the board, because people have voted and said, this is what we want, this is what they want. So they've made their game as all-encompassing as possible. So there's nothing that makes the game specifically good. It's just everyone kind of likes it a little bit. So there's no authorism in it, where they're like, okay, someone's put their real dreams and they've got this and they've made this fantastic game into it. Whereas if it's made by a committee, someone could go, this would be great, this would be well fun, this would be exciting. And then the rest of the committee would be like, no, that might be too extreme for some of our players. We don't want that. So yeah, I think that's perfect. Committee designed scripts, normally bland and grey.
So actually we have here Saber Can that touched a very interesting points. Do we need tokens for governance or not? What do you guys think?
I think it can be part of the equation, but it certainly shouldn't be the only part of it. There's so many other factors to weigh in. How much someone's just playing a game.
Okay.
You know, you don't want some outside force buying all your tokens to control governance. That would be horrible.
I agree with you. Token holding plus time spent in the ecosystem, I would say that's a good equation for governance.
Even then, I mean, consider the fact that we have NFT holders too. So the NFT holders say, well, we want a piece of this. We're playing this game every day too. You know, do they have a priority over people that just hold a token? Like Mike says, if someone sees potential in a game, they buy $1 million in token and say, all right, we're going to run things differently. Be like, whoa, like that's kind of a power move. Yeah, I don't know. I think, you know, it's got to be a blended approach. It has to be, people have to physically play the game. If they're not playing the game, you know, they are not entitled to any decision making, even if you are a potential investor in the game, because you can just provide the collateral and the funding, but until you actually physically experience the game that you're playing, you should not have a say, in my opinion.
Okay, really, really interesting governance in NFT gaming. So, guys, to everyone watching the stream, we're going to have community questions after my last question. So start dropping your questions for these gentlemen, the true OGs of blockchain gaming, in the chat, and I'll pick some of them. Okay. So last but not least, one of the things I usually check before investing in the project is how the centralized assets of the project are. For example, if I check NFT collection OpenSea and I go into Etherscan, for example, and I see that only that the 70% of the supply is being held by like 3 or 4 people, I don't like that much. I prefer when assets are decentralized. But do you guys think this is a red flag to have like the majority of the supply of assets of a Web3 game in only like a few wallets? Who wants to take this one? This one is.
I'll jump in first before I mute my microphone again as the coffee machine starts. With that, I think it depends whose wallets they are, because sometimes you just don't have control over that. And like someone could be heavily invested in your project, so they've bought loads of your stuff. But if it's just the majority is held by the project that gives the ability to any type rug on you, then yeah, that could be a red flag. But if it's just someone that's heavily invested in the game, like I know some of the people that hold the largest amount of our fighters, for example, one of them is my brother, and he owns, I think, like 80 of our fighters out of 5,000. But if I saw that some guy's holding 80 and I didn't know the thing that this is just a dude that's heavily invested and loves our game, I'm going to think, oh, he could do anything with that at any moment. So if you're always assuming the worst from these situations, yeah, it could be bad. But if you go into the project and you find out about it, there could be a very innocent and quite joyful reason why some places are holding so much of a certain thing. I don't know if we're thinking bigger scale than this, because I think that is still one of the largest holdings we have out of our 5,000, but there could be other more malicious intents behind it for sure.
Mike and Grant, do you want to add a comment on this? What do you think about?
I'm always down for a good comment. You know, if there's a whale
You always
out
have
there in the
something to
audience,
say.
I have no problem with you know, taking a large position in Undead Blocks, NFTs, or token, given the current market. But I mean, George is absolutely right. It's like, since everything is decentralized, you don't know who's at the other end. Like when our community gets excited because they see a large buy, they don't know if they physically stake the token, then it's like, okay, you can tell these people are really invested in this. But it's hard to actually say, especially because even from our perspective, we're listed on Uniswap and Gate. So somebody might be making even just an arbitrage play if they see a couple pennies arbitrage between the two tokens on the different exchanges. So from our perspective, yeah, I mean, you want mass adoption of holders. You definitely want to have that spread out. I think that reduces the volatility, especially when people are taking smaller positions, 100, 150, 200 token positions. They're less likely to make large movements in terms of that volatility. But, you know, like you said, it's decentralized. You might have a group of, you know, these guilds, right? They collect a lot of money and then they make one play. I've spoken to a lot of guilds that, you know, are representing actual community members in the Philippines, Nigeria, Lebanon, where they just want to participate, and then they'll scoop it all together and do it in one transaction to save on fees. So really it's tough to say. Obviously you want more holders, and that's going to be the official line for me. But It remains to be seen.
For us, maybe we're the dumb people here, but we tried to limit in our mint mojos. In our mint, it was only one per wallet, and two with some of our partners. Obviously, anyone can get around that, making multiple wallets, but it does make it a little harder. And we did, maybe we sacrificed some sales due to that, but we did want to have a more distributed community in the long run.
Okay. Really, really interesting strategy. I would say that, yeah, it really depends on which wallets we're talking about. Unfortunately, even though blockchain is public, like when we go to either scan, we can't really know who the owner of each wallet is. So I would prefer to have a more decentralized project, so there's not the risk of having a like huge dump, like how it happened so many times in Web3 gaming. So now we have some community questions. Does anyone want to ask something to Grant, Mike, George, me? Leave it in the chat right now, guys. We're going to have some community questions now. So we have here some for Grant. Brennan Harris wants to know if voting is going to be decided by the Undead token and holding the NFT, or just the token. I think we already kind of answered
That's
this
a good
somehow.
question. It's going to be blended. There are going to be, so for the NFT holders, right? Here's an example of something they're going to vote on. We'll say, what do you want the payout structure to look like? That would be a vote based off of the NFT holders. Then within the NFT holders, okay, well, there's 4 layers, right? Well, actually, technically 7 with the Apocalypse and Genesis collection combined. So it is going to take more thought in terms of how we structure that. But in terms of something like a potential, airdrop or a dividend for token holders or NFT holders, again, that governance will have to be more of a blended scenario, because we do realize we have these two communities. We have the token community, we have the NFT community. We want to meld them as much as we can. That's why we encourage everyone in our Discord to join our Telegram. Discord is more NFT centric. Telegram is more token centric. We want to meld these two communities together, where eventually we can make the right decisions together based on the community votes that we undertake.
Okay, interesting. So our community doesn't have any more questions, so I think we can finish this session. So guys, do you want to add something? Do you want to tell us a bit about, before we go, about what's the next step in your projects? Tell us a bit more about what's going on. We want to start with Mike. You're muted, Mike. What's the next step for Planet Mojo?
Sorry. Thank you. Yeah. Well, first of all, our minting for this phase ends in just about an hour 15 minutes. And then over the next few weeks, we're going to be really focused on announcing new things, rewards to our community, airdrops to our Mojo holders. And we're also going to be debuting our cinematic trailer, which we're very excited about showing off, done by friends of ours that we worked with, ex-Pixar ILM veterans. And we're going to premiere that in NFT NYC and then show it worldwide the next day, I guess. And our Mojo reveals are coming up next week as well, so people can sprout their seeds into Mojos, and really just showing off gameplay leading up to our game coming out this summer.
Oh yeah, we're almost there. Quite hyped about it. Can't wait to play the auto chess battler of Planet Mojo. George, what's the next step for Crypto Fight Club?
The next step for Crypto Fight Club. Well, my first step is I've just gone back to the Mojo site to see what previously had deterred me from minting and to see if that has changed and refreshed my memory on that if there's only an hour left. But for Crypto Fight Club, the next thing coming up for us is it's going to be Fight the Bear. We've got our next 3 things are likely to be in quite close succession to each other. But obviously, these other 2 guys in here who are also developing a project and a game know what can happen in game development. So, these are forecast to be in quick succession. Fight the Bear coming soon. I've been playing around in our PvP Battle Royale mode. That is also going to be our main game. When people are asking for our main game, that's what we're talking about. or they're talking about. It's just going to be one of our games as we build out the arcade. We're likely to be starting on another mini game as well, and our metaverse is still getting built out. These things are built by separate teams with the same goal. So anyone that is worrying that some of them are taking longer, it's not because our team is spread thin. It's because we run into development issues that have caused us to delay when the game's coming out. We'd rather have people get a good first impression than have to no man's sky this project. So that's what's coming next for Crypto Fight Club.
Can't wait for Fight the Bear. Grant, what's the next step for Undead Blocks? Is it the squads?
Well, the next step, it's not squads. It's actually our first tournament. So,
The first tournament.
First three in about 3 weeks. We're going to be running our first 2 tournaments. It's a $40,000 pistol speed run. It's going to be $20,000 allocated over 2 weekends. We're going to run the first tournament. We're going to get feedback, community feedback, see how everything runs, make sure the technology is running smooth. We're going to be announcing our esports arena partner, who we're going to be putting on an awesome spectacle for you guys. And then the weekend after, bam, we're going to do another tournament. So really excited about that. From there, like you said, it is building in squads. We're vigorously working on the multiplayer, and it's also incorporating the lending. So, for those of you that do have more than one pack and you want to lend out your packs during these beta tournaments that we're having, we want to be able to get that up to speed as fast as we can. So those are really the 3 big things. Obviously, the large one is the pistol speed run. You will need an NFT to participate in that. It doesn't matter what class. All NFTs are welcome. And it's going to be kill 100 zombies as fast as you can. We should be announcing the date of that speed run late this week, if not early next week. We're just finalizing the logistics because I'm speaking at NFT NYC, and we just want to make sure we have enough time to get everything prepared for you guys. But game's in a really good spot. Can't wait for you guys to start playing. If you haven't already, download the beta. It's fun to play. Head over to wagyu.io or undeadblocks.com. You can grab it there.
Yeah, guys, make sure you check Undead Blocks. Great game. We've played it in our channel. We have videos about it. So also make sure you subscribe to the Crypto Herd. We've been streaming it, and it looks really good. Love to shoot some zombies after I arrive from work. It's a nice stress relief. So, guys, before we go, actually, I would like to have your insights on the project that I'm quite bullish on, and I'd love to know your opinion on this. So let me share my screen here.
Is it McDonald's?
Oh
Can we get the Bruno McDonald's graphic that was made previously by our good friend who should not be named?
Yeah, no, it's not about McDonald's this time. It's not about flipping burgers. It's about Voxy tactics. So I've been quite bullish on this. I own some NFT Voxys, and basically how this works is this is a turn-based tactics RPG game. So it's like Final Fantasy Tactics. I would say the gameplay is good. They have a fully doxed team. They have a strong community. But now they enabled the play and earn in this game. And basically how it works is if you don't own a Voxy, an NFT Voxy, you're going to get like 3 starter Voxys. And you're not going to earn as much as the people who own the NFT Voxy. But then I would say that this was kind of bad decision, because this is giving access to basically everyone to earn and exploit this ecosystem. What are your take on this, guys? What do you think about this? Do you think this was a wise decision? Do you think earning should be only for the NFT holders? What do you think?
I've played this, and I think my worst thing was I don't have an NFT, so I just randomly had to pick 3 characters that were then going to be my characters. And when you hover over it, it doesn't tell you what they do. You've just got like a name. So I just guessed a druid would heal my dudes, and I guessed that black magic would do damage. So that was my main thing that was a bit of a distraction when I went into it, and I just got rolled, I think, 5 games in a row, and then decided maybe this isn't for me until I know what the characters are. But I think free to play to a point where you can then earn is good, but then it gives people no reason to earn. hold your NFT. If you say that they're earning a third of what the NFT holders are doing, if there's no cap on how many games you could play a day, instead of playing one game as an NFT holder and earning X, I could play 3 games as a non-NFT holder and still earn X. So unless they've got a capping mechanism for how many times you can play to try and earn for the day, I think free to play in that model is just going to drain everything from this.
Even then, with bots, it's dangerous, right? Yeah, I mean, to me, it's all like sinks and faucets. You know, that's what it comes down to, really. If you're gonna have a faucet, you better have a sink. And you know that without knowing more about it, like you're saying, if there's caps, whatever. But yeah, it's potentially dangerous.
And
Okay,
also with your
say-
saying there, bots, there's not a large, like I've waited a while to get into a game. I don't know about you, Bruno. So if there's not that large of a player base, I wouldn't suspect that it would be too hard to face your friend whilst playing and, oh no, you happen to lose again because you didn't understand the game and your friend is now on a wicked winning streak and has earned enough to split some of it with you. But I'm not sure what their thing is.
Yeah.
Well, I would say the player base is, I would say, solid. They've been around for a while, and but yeah, this decision was a bit weird. I think the token has some utility, like revealing items. So by playing, you actually get some NFTs, which are like the weapons and armor, and then some of them are unidentified, and you can identify them with a token. It also has some other utility like potions that you can use in the game, but still, I would say that they should have allowed only the play to earn to NFT holders. But I would say this is an interesting thing to evaluate because, I mean, there's like so many projects popping up, and it's important to learn with the mistakes of other previous projects, right? Grant, I'm curious. You don't have anything to say about this? You always have something to say, man.
No, yeah, of course. No, I think it looks dope. You know, I can't say I'm too familiar with Voxies, but I think it looks really cool. I think any RPG is going to do well. There's always going to be, a large portion of the world, especially in play to earn. The problem is, like Mike said, is the bots, right? If you can bot this and you can set it up real quickly, set it and forget it, then it really doesn't become a game at all. It's just decentralized, yield farming. So, I'd be curious to see what they did. I think you're right. I think they should keep the lending to NFT holders, but remains to be seen. I think it looks pretty cool.
Okay. So, guys, I don't think we have more questions from the community. So we're going to terminate this session. It was a pleasure, gentlemen. You're always welcome in the Crypto Herd. It's always a pleasure to have you around these. Guys, for those of you who watch, thanks for watching. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you subscribe. In 15 days, we're going to have Chris Wood from Infinite Fleet, and we're going to have Ryan from Meme Lords, and a third guest here. So this is going to become a routine in the Crypto Herd. Every 15 days, we're going to bring you the true OGs of the space so we can learn with them. So, guys, thanks for watching all. And I see Cryptomanics in the metaverse.
Peace. See you guys. Thank you. Bye.